back. It's Will here, and today we have a expanded format deck profile. This is Turtonator GX. So basically, back when Guardians Rising first came out, this was a pretty prevalent deck with Volcanion EX, which is still a solid option. But this version is going to be Turtonator GX paired with Garbodor with Garbotoxin. So basically, Turtonator / ability lock. Now, I am running proxies for this physical profile because I do not own all of the physical versions of the cards, but I do have them online, which is where I've been playtesting this deck. It's okay. I did make some changes to the profile prior to making this video, so I was running 2 escape ropes, but I switched those out for max potions, which I have not tested online yet, but I do think it might work. So, obviously there are other changes you can make in here, but this is the Turtonator GX Garbodor deck profile. So basically, starting off the list, we're running, to maximize consistency, 4 copies of Turtonator GX. Now, most of the older builds with Volcanion ran stuff like Ho-Oh GX, which this list is not running. This is our main attacker. This is who you're going to want to use. Certain cases, there are a couple other attackers you might want to pull up with, which we'll talk about and get to in a minute. But first, let's talk about next. For Pokemon, we have a 2-2 line of Trubbish and Garbodor. Trubbish from Guardians Rising and Garbodor with Garbotoxin. Up next, we've got a couple secondary attackers in the deck. The first one being Reshiram and Charizard from Unbroken Bonds. Now, the older Turtonator GX build did not run Reshiram because it was around the release of Guardians Rising, so there was no Unbroken Bonds, and a ton of fire support cards that we have now did not exist then, so this is just great overall to help the list function. And next we have 1 copy of Victini Prism Star with Infinity. You're going to be discarding a ton of energy with Turtonator GX, so having that Victini in the deck to shuffle those energy back in and basically loop them, cycle them, is great. You could deal up to, let me check here actually, you can hit some high numbers. I think we're running 14 energy, so you can hit, you can hit about 240 with Victini Prism, which is great. You're usually not going to hit those numbers. Like 200 is maybe the highest I've gotten playtesting. But it still is a solid secondary attacker to come in and cycle those fire energy back into the deck. And last but not least, since this is an ability lock deck with Garbodor, we only run 1 of these Pokemon with abilities that is not Garbodor, and that's 1 copy of Tapu Lele GX with Wonder Tag to get out your copies of Welder. This also functions as a secondary attacker. Don't forget, it can attack, energy derive, can deal damage. Next up, we've got another big fire support card like Reshiram that we didn't have before, and Victini that we didn't have before in the older profile or the older variant of the list. That is Welder. Now, Welder is, again, from Unbroken Bonds. This is probably one of the most prevalent fire support cards in the current standard format, which is going to be rotating soon. So it's going to be very big, again, big and expanded. One of the best fire support cards ever printed. And it's great to accelerate energy to Turtonator and give you draw power while doing so. Next, we have 2 copies of Guzma in here. It has some Switch and some Gust. So Guzma, just a great card all around. Next, another pretty standard expanded card. We have 2 copies of N in here to limit our opponent's hand/resources. And a couple final one-off supporters. First of them being a Pokemon Ranger. Now that's in here as an ADP counter. Because ADP can be super threatening this deck, since Turtonator GX has a pretty low HP, 190, not super high. So ADP comboed with anything that deals, 160. ADP, Muscle Band, Altered Creation, then the Ultimate Ray. That's one-hit KOing Turtonator. So Pokemon Ranger is great because it gets rid of those effects on ADP. So if we didn't run Ranger up against an ADP matchup, this would be a 3-prize, 190 HP, basically just become a liability. Same with Tapu Lele, so Pokemon Ranger is great for clearing those effects, so the clearing the prize cards and the extra 30 damage. And last but not least, we have somewhat of another denial card in here, and that's Lysander Prism Star from Forbidden Light. Now, this card is good because it basically lets you put your opponent's cards from their discard pile into the Lost Zone, which is amazing because it just basically denies them access to certain resources they might have in the Lost Zone or in their discard pile, like certain Pokemon that get knocked out that they need to get back into play. You can just put that in the Lost Zone, which is great. I mean, you could easily switch this out for a copy of Faba. I just prefer this because I feel like it's a little more effective in getting stuff into the Lost Zone. You can do more with it, and you do run you run 6 fire Pokemon, so that's the potential to get 6 cards from their discard in the Lost Zone. That's usually not going to happen because you're most cases going to have at most 3 or 4 fire Pokemon in play because, again, you're going to have that Garbodor down. You're going to have the Tapu Lele, hypothetically. So basically, you're probably not going to be getting more than 4 cards into the Lost Zone, but still 4, that is a pretty high number. Yeah, so just overall a pretty helpful inclusion in the deck, and it could be swapped for Faba. Alright, up next we've got stadiums and items for the list. So first things first is Heat Factory Prism Star from Lost Thunder. That lets you discard a fire energy from your hand and draw 3 cards once during your turn. That's just great, some extra draw support, much like Welder. So super awesome, super helpful. And next we have a 3-line of Giant Hearth in here to search out fire energy when you need it. That's super helpful. Just great to have for a 4 count of stadiums because you can bump your opponents, I don't know, Silent Lab if you're playing against something like Baby Ultra Necrozma. So overall, pretty dang helpful. Up next, we have some item cards, or quite a bit of item cards actually that I've got to talk about. And the first is our main Pokemon search engine for the deck, since we do have a ton of stuff that can be searched using this. And that's going to be Heavy Ball. So that's actually one of my favorite inclusions of the deck, the fact that I am able to run Heavy Ball, because this is a really cool card. It lets you search out your Turtonators, it lets you search out your Garbodors, and it lets you search out Reshizard, which is honestly pretty good for getting out those secondary attackers and other tech cards that you might need. So that is a super helpful search engine. And since there is stuff that doesn't have retreat cost, or has retreat cost under 3, we've also got 3 copies of Ultra Ball in here to search out anything when we need it. So that's pretty solid. Get out our Lele, get out your Victini, get out anything really, your Trubbishes, any basics you need to get into play that have less than a retreat cost of 3. So that's awesome. Heavy Ball and Ultra Ball are our Pokemon search. Now, we are running 4 copies of Welder and a bunch of other supporters, so a great way to expand it to cycle supporters is VS Seeker. Now, this is awesome because it just lets us cycle those Welders. That gives us up to 8 Welders in one game, which is crazy. That's more than enough. Super good to just keep those fire energy going. This is just a big fire energy loop. And up next we have some tools. So we run quite a bit of tools in this list. The first being a 4-line of Flowstone, since we have a ton of stuff with heavy retreat costs. We got Turtonator. We got Reshizard. We have even Tapu Lele or Victini. And then Garbodor, of course, because that tool will activate its Garbotoxin ability, which shuts off all other abilities. Next on the tools, we have 1 copy of Choice Band from Guardians Rising in here to boost our damage against EX/GX decks. 1 copy of, this isn't the tool, this is Field Blower. 1 copy of Field Blower in here to discard stadiums or tools, which can be super duper helpful in most situations. And then last but not least, 1 copy of Computer Search, and then 2 copies of Max Potion. So I did say this earlier, I think. I did cut Escape Rope for 2 copies of Max Potion, 2 copies of Escape Rope, 2 copies of Max Potion. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the Max Potions or if I'm going to exchange them again for something else. But this is the current items and stadiums that we're running. Alright guys, and now we got to talk about the energy cards we're running in the deck. So I am running 15 fire energy in this list, and the reason why is because you're usually going to have a lot of things that are going to require, of course, fire energy to attack, and some other solid reasons as well, such as the ability to use Giant Hearth, and the fact that it's the only type of energy that can power up your attacks for all your Pokemon in this deck, except maybe Tapu Lele. So, big reasons here are definitely because Turtonator GX discards a lot of fire energy, so it's good to have a decent amount in your deck. You also have Heat Factory Prism Star in here as another bit of draw power, so discard a fire energy, draw 3 cards. Super helpful, just to have a solid stock of fire energy. And we also run Max Potion, so to heal that damage off the weaker Turtonator, Heat Factory Prism and Max Potion, along with using Bright Flame, is going to be discarding a ton of energy. A good way to combo Max Potion with Turtonator is Bright Flame, who's got 1 energy left, Max Potion it, then just basically refresh using Welder and Attach Return. We can also search out all these fire energy, make sure we have them in deck when we use stuff like Giant Hearth, and it's good to have a ton in the discard when you want to attack with Victini Prism Star. So that should round out the list, these 15 fire energy. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and definitely consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.